On the surface, it's been comforting to see Tessa standing by Mariah during one of the most fragile periods of her life. After everything Mariah has gone through, having her wife firmly in her corner feels like exactly what she needs right now. But if you've watched soaps long enough, you already know how this works. Support and secrets rarely coexist for long. And in this case, Tessa may have just unknowingly planted the seeds for what could become Mariah's next major crisis once she gets out of treatment. Supportive, but not entirely honest. There's no question that Tessa has stepped up. She's put everything else on hold, including her connection with Daniel, to focus entirely on Mariah. Given how emotionally fragile Mariah is right now, that kind of devotion matters. Their reunion is delicate at best. It's hanging by a thread, and Tessa clearly knows it. That's why she's operating in full protective mode, choosing her words carefully, trying not to trigger anything that could send Mariah spiraling again. But here's the problem. In the world of the young and the restless, secrets never stay buried, and when they come out, they tend to explode. The Daniel problem isn't going away. Tessa keeps insisting that Daniel is just a friend, and technically that's not a lie, but it's also not the truth. What she's leaving out is the part that actually matters, the fact that their connection went far beyond friendship. They weren't just leaning on each other emotionally, they were in a full-blown relationship. They crossed lines that Mariah has no idea about. You can understand why Tessa is keeping quiet. Mariah is already in a vulnerable state, and dropping something like that on her could easily undo any progress she's made. Still, there's something uncomfortable about watching Tessa push Mariah to be honest, while holding back something this big herself. It doesn't quite sit right. That moment felt off. One of the most awkward scenes came when Mariah praised Tessa for never giving up on her. If you know the full story, that line hits differently. Because while Mariah was gone and struggling, Tessa wasn't just waiting patiently. She was filing for divorce. She had moved on. She had built something real with Daniel. That might have been the moment to come clean. Then again, Mariah was about to leave for treatment. Maybe that wasn't the right time to drop a bomb like that, or maybe it actually was. A therapist could have helped her process it in a controlled environment. Instead, the truth stayed buried, and that choice is almost guaranteed to come back later. Tessa's caught in a no-win situation. To be fair, Tessa is in an incredibly difficult position. She can tell the truth and risk pushing Mariah over the edge, or stay quiet and risk blowing everything up later when the truth inevitably comes out. Is she protecting Mariah, or is she protecting herself? The answer is probably somewhere in the middle, but either way, it's setting up a situation that won't stay contained for long, and this may not even be the biggest obstacle facing their relationship. Mariah's future is still uncertain. Right now, the focus is on Mariah getting the help she needs, which is exactly where it should be. She's heading to a mental health facility, and in true soap fashion, that could mean anything. 2 weeks, 2 months, or longer. There's also the possibility that Devin and Abby could push for legal consequences, which would complicate things even further. Depending on how the show handles it, we might not even see much of Mariah for a while. But when she comes back, that's when everything could unravel. Unfinished business lingers. Tessa may be back with her wife, but her connection with Daniel doesn't feel fully resolved. There was something unfinished in the way they parted. No real closure, no clean break. And in soaps, that usually means one thing: the story isn't over. Mariah has already started asking questions, gently trying to understand how close Tessa and Daniel really were. So far, both of them have protected her from the full truth, but how long can that last? What happens when the truth comes out? Right now, everyone is focused on helping Mariah heal, but eventually she's going to want answers, real answers. Not just surface-level reassurance, but the full story, including why Tessa got involved with a man at all when she had previously identified as gay. Maybe Tessa thinks Mariah never needs to know, but what if the truth comes out in a way she can't control? What if Mariah finds out on her own? That kind of revelation wouldn't just hurt. It could completely derail her recovery. The twist fans are already expecting. There's been speculation for a while now about where this story might be heading, and if it plays out the way many fans suspect, it would take things to another level entirely. The idea? Tessa could be pregnant with Daniel's child. If that turns out to be true, it changes everything. It ties Tessa and Daniel together permanently. It puts Mariah in an impossible emotional position, and given how fragile she already is, it could send her into another downward spiral. How would Mariah react? That's the big question. Would she lash out in anger? Or would she turn that pain inward? There's a real possibility that Mariah, already carrying guilt and self-blame, might push Tessa away completely. She could even convince herself that Tessa should go back to Daniel and build a life with him. Honestly, it might be refreshing to see some fire from Mariah again. Lately, she's been weighed down by guilt and sadness. A stronger, more assertive reaction could shift the dynamic in an interesting way. Could they still make it work? Even if the worst-case scenario plays out, it doesn't necessarily mean the end for Tessa and Mariah. Tessa could choose to raise the child with her wife. They could try to rebuild once again from a place of honesty, but getting there wouldn't be easy. There would be fallout, emotional confrontations, trust issues, probably more than a few setbacks because that's how soap relationships work. Tessa and Mariah, a love story, built on highs, lows, and everything in between. To really understand what's at stake, you have to look at their history. This isn't just any couple. This is a relationship that's been tested over and over again. The early days, Mariah and Tessa started out as friends, spending time together at the underground. Back then, their lives were very different. Mariah was with Devin, and Tessa was involved with Noah. No one saw what was coming. The first kiss that changed everything. During a trip to a music festival in San Francisco, something shifted. Mariah realized her feelings for Tessa weren't just friendly. Acting on impulse, she kissed her. And just like that, everything became complicated. Trust issues and growing pains. As their connection deepened, cracks started to show. Tessa once used lyrics from Mariah's private journal during a moment of insecurity, which led to a serious breach of trust. It was one of the first real tests of their relationship. Finding joy in simple moments. Despite the drama, there were lighter times. Barbecues on rooftops, movie nights, quiet moments that made their relationship feel real and grounded. Romance, chaos, and memorable moments. From Valentine's Day, celebrations that went completely off the rails to serenades on fire escapes, their relationship was never boring. They even had their share of wild soap moments, like getting unintentionally high at a party and dancing the night away. Breaks, betrayals, and reconciliation. Like many soap couples, they didn't stay smooth for long. There were separations, mistakes, even cheating. But somehow, they always found their way back to each other. Trauma that changed everything. Mariah's kidnapping while acting as a surrogate was a turning point. The experience left deep emotional scars, especially after she formed a bond with the baby she was carrying. Tessa stood by her through all of it, building a life together. Eventually, they reached a place where they were ready to build a future. They got engaged in a heartfelt, intimate moment. Then came their wedding, surrounded by family and friends in a celebration that felt both joyful and meaningful. Becoming parents. Their journey to parenthood wasn't easy, but it finally happened. They adopted a baby girl, Mariah Copeland, and for a while, life felt stable, happy even. When everything fell apart, again, that peace didn't last. Ian Ward's return brought chaos back into their lives, and Mariah's guilt over everything that followed began to consume her. She changed, became distant, burdened by something she couldn't share. The breaking point. Eventually, Mariah admitted she had done something terrible, something she believed Tessa couldn't handle knowing. That led to their separation, and from there, things only became more complicated. Where things stand now, they've found their way back to each other, at least on the surface. But the truth about Tessa and Daniel is still hanging there, unspoken. And if there's one thing history has proven, it's this. Mariah and Tessa can survive almost anything. But secrets? Those have a way of doing the most damage of all.